The Shawshank Redemption is one of those rare films that truly earns the word masterpiece. It's not just because of its incredible acting or that iconic prison break. It's the way it slowly, patiently builds something bigger, a story about hope, endurance, and friendship, told through decades of quiet moments and small victories. But let's be honest, if someone asks you what actually happens in the movie, it's easy to fall back on. It's about a guy who escapes from prison. And while technically true, that barely scratches the surface. So in this video, we're walking through the film from start to finish, every major event, every emotional turn, every clever little setup that pays off in the end. Because The Shawshank Redemption isn't just about breaking out of prison, it's about breaking free in every sense of the word. Let's begin with a man on trial for murder, and a look on his face that no one can quite figure out. The story kicks off in 1947, with a somber, slow burn of a courtroom scene. We meet Andy Dufresne, a quiet, well-dressed banker, standing trial for the murder of his wife and her lover. Now, Andy doesn't act like your typical guilty man. He's calm, composed, maybe too calm, and that makes the jury uneasy. His wife had been having an affair with a golf pro, and Andy, in a drunken haze, had driven out near their cabin with a gun in his glove box. He says he just wanted to confront them, then changed his mind. But the gun was never found. No alibi, no clear answers. The prosecution lays it out in simple terms. He had motive, he had means, and he had opportunity. That's all the jury needs. Andy is found guilty on 2 counts of murder and is handed 2 life sentences, back to back. And just like that, his old life, the career, the marriage, the house, the suits, it's all gone. He's put on a prison bus, shackled next to other men whose eyes are already dead. It's a bumpy ride into hell, and hell has a name: Shawshank State Penitentiary. Shawshank is introduced like a medieval fortress. High stone walls, barbed wire, towering watchtowers manned by guards with rifles. The gates open, and the new inmates, fresh fish, as they're called, step out into a sea of jeering prisoners. It's chaos, shouting, leering, everyone sizing them up. Up above is Captain Hadley, a brutal guard who keeps order with a nightstick and zero patience. Watching from the yard is Red, the man who'll eventually become Andy's best friend, but for now, he's just one of the old-timers, taking bets on which new guy will crack first. That night, it happens. One inmate completely breaks down, sobbing, begging for his mother. The guards drag him out of his cell, and Hadley beats him senseless. The man dies before morning. Andy watches all this quietly, from the shadows of his cell. Not crying, not speaking, just watching. That's our first real impression of Shawshank. It's not just a prison, it's a place that eats men alive. Cold, cruel, dehumanizing. Among the prisoners is a man named Ellis Redding, but everyone just calls him Red. He's played by Morgan Freeman, and honestly, he is the soul of the movie. Red is the kind of guy who's been inside so long, he knows how everything works. He's smart, calm, well-liked, and, most importantly, he can get things. Cigarettes, chess pieces, a spoon with the right kind of handle. Whatever you need, Red's your man. Andy, being new and clearly out of place, catches Red's eye. He's not like the others. He's too clean-cut, too quiet. Doesn't talk unless he has something to say. Keeps to himself. Then one day, Andy approaches Red in the yard with a strange request. A rock hammer, a small tool used to carve and shape rocks. Says it's for a hobby, something to help pass the time. Red's a little suspicious at first, but when he sees the thing is no bigger than a toothbrush, he figures, what's he gonna do? A little while later, Andy also asks for a poster of Rita Hayworth, the Hollywood icon of the day. Just a pin-up for his cell wall, something nice to look at. Again, harmless. To the guards and inmates, Andy seems like just another quiet, white-collar guy doing his time. But beneath that calm exterior, you can already feel there's more going on. But Shawshank doesn't let anyone stay untouched. Over the next few years, Andy is repeatedly targeted by a gang of predators known as the Sisters. They're led by a sadistic inmate named Boggs, and they attack Andy regularly. Beatings, sexual assault, it's horrifying. And through it all, Andy doesn't lash out, doesn't beg, doesn't scream. He endures, quietly, with dignity, and that earns him a certain kind of respect, even if it doesn't stop the pain. But then, something shifts. Andy is about to catch a break, one that will change his entire trajectory inside Shawshank. A turning point comes one hot summer day when Andy and a group of inmates are selected to tar the roof of one of the prison buildings, backbreaking labor under a blazing sun. While working, Andy overhears Captain Hadley, the prison's most feared guard, complaining about a problem most inmates can only dream of. He's about to inherit a bunch of money, but the taxes are going to take a huge bite. Andy does the unthinkable. He speaks up. "That money belongs to you," he says. "If you want to keep it, all of it, there's a legal way." For a moment, Hadley snaps, grabs Andy by the collar and drags him to the edge of the roof, ready to throw him off. It's not just a threat. He means it. But Andy stays calm, carefully explains how Hadley can gift the money to his wife, making it tax-free under a legal loophole. Hadley blinks, processes it, then lowers him back down. Andy just saved him thousands of dollars, and he didn't ask for a thing in return. Well, except maybe a few beers for the guys. And that's how we get one of the film's most memorable scenes. The inmates, filthy and sweat-soaked, sit on the roof drinking ice-cold beers, courtesy of Hadley. For just a few minutes, they're not prisoners. They're just men, sitting in the sun, laughing, sharing a moment of peace. Andy doesn't even drink one himself. He just sits in the shade, quietly smiling. That's Andy in a nutshell, always thinking of the bigger picture. After that, Andy becomes valuable, too valuable to ignore. Word spreads fast. He's the guy who can help with taxes, investments, inheritance, you name it. Guards from all over the prison start lining up for financial advice. Even Warden Norton takes notice, a stern, Bible-quoting man who hides his corruption behind a layer of moral superiority. Norton sees potential. He puts Andy to work handling prison finances, organizing ledgers, cooking books, and eventually helping him run a full-blown money laundering scheme through a fake public works program called Inside Out. It's genius. They use prison labor to undercut legitimate contractors, pocket the profits, and Andy keeps it all clean on paper, using a fake identity. Randall Stevens, a ghost person he invents to funnel the money. To the outside world, Shawshank is a model of reform and efficiency. Inside, it's a goldmine built on free labor and fraud. Andy is the one holding it all together. But the more valuable he becomes to the system, the more dangerous it is for him to ever step out of line. As Andy's role in the prison deepens, he starts focusing on something no one else really cares about: the library. Shawshank's library is pathetic: dusty shelves, outdated books, and barely enough material to keep a curious mind occupied. So Andy comes up with a plan. He starts writing to the state once a week, politely asking for funds to improve it. For years, they ignore him. But Andy doesn't give up. Letter after letter, week after week. Then one day, boxes arrive. Books, records, magazines, a check for $200. A small miracle. He's done the impossible, convinced the state to invest in a better future for prisoners. And that's just the beginning. With Red's help, Andy builds the best prison library in New England. He even helps inmates get their GEDs, gives advice to young men trying to turn their lives around. One afternoon, while sorting through the new materials, Andy finds a vinyl record of The Marriage of Figaro, a soaring Mozart opera. And in a moment of quiet rebellion, he locks himself in the warden's office, puts the record on the PA system, and blasts it through the prison loudspeakers. The music fills every hallway, every cell, the yard. Every man freezes. They look up, stunned, awestruck. Even Red, who admits he doesn't know what those women are singing about, says it was the most beautiful sound he ever heard. For a moment, just a moment, every prisoner feels free. Of course, the guards eventually break in. Andy gets 2 weeks in solitary for it. But when he comes out, gaunt and tired, he tells Red, "That's the beauty of music. They can't get that from you." And in that moment, we see what Andy's really been doing this whole time, not just surviving, but protecting something inside himself. A sense of hope. But while Andy is finding meaning in books and music, another inmate shows us the darker side of prison life. His name is Brooks Hadlin, the old prison librarian. He's been inside for 50 years. Half a century. When Brooks is granted parole, it should be a cause for celebration. But the truth is, he's terrified. The world outside has moved on without him: cars, noise, strangers, speed. No one knows his name. No one needs him. He gets a job bagging groceries, lives in a halfway house, and spends his evenings feeding birds in the park. Alone, forgotten. And one day, he carves "Brooks was here" into a wooden beam, and hangs himself. His story becomes a chilling reminder of what prison can do to a man, how it can strip away your identity, your ability to function, even your desire to live outside its walls. Red calls it being institutionalized when prison becomes safer than freedom. By the mid-1960s, Andy's been at Shawshank for nearly 2 decades. He's settled into his role, the librarian, the bookkeeper, the quiet fixer behind the curtain. Then, a burst of energy enters the prison in the form of Tommy Williams, a young, fast-talking inmate with a pompadour and a mile-a-minute attitude. Tommy's a small-time crook, more cocky than clever, but he's got heart. And Andy sees potential in him. He offers to help Tommy earn his GED, patiently tutoring him in reading, writing, and math. It gives both of them a sense of purpose. For a while, there's hope again, something rare inside Shawshank. Then one night, everything changes. Tommy shares a story, something that seems small at first, until the weight of it hits. Years earlier, he did time in another prison. His cellmate was a guy named Elmo Blatch, a twitchy, violent man who once bragged about breaking into a house, killing a woman and her lover, and pinning it on the husband. The husband? A banker. Sound familiar? To Andy, it's like lightning. This is it. After almost 20 years of wrongful imprisonment, here's the evidence that could finally prove his innocence. He goes straight to Warden Norton, hopeful, maybe even excited for the first time in years. And then the door slams shut, metaphorically and literally. Norton isn't interested in justice. Andy is too valuable. The only one who knows how to cook the books, clean the dirty money, and keep the scam alive. If Andy gets out, the whole operation crumbles. So Norton does what corrupt men do when cornered. He shuts Andy down. Andy threatens to go public, says he'll expose the entire scheme. Norton's response? He throws Andy into solitary confinement. Not for a week, not for 2, but for 2 full months. No light, no sound, just a bucket, a wall, and silence. It's mental torture. But that's not the worst of it. To make sure this threat never resurfaces, Norton has Tommy killed. One night in the yard, Hadley calls Tommy over under the pretense of a meeting. As Tommy steps toward him, unarmed and unsuspecting, Hadley opens fire, riddles him with bullets and claims he was trying to escape. No questions, no investigation, just gone. It's a devastating blow, not just for Andy, but for the audience. For a brief moment, we believed the system might work. That truth might matter. But Shawshank doesn't care about truth. The message is crystal clear. You don't threaten the system. You survive it, or it buries you. After 2 brutal months in solitary, Andy comes back, different. He's thinner, quieter, but there's something else, a calmness. A focus, like he's made a decision. He speaks to Red in riddles, talking about hope, something Red's long dismissed as a dangerous thing. But Andy's eyes say otherwise. Then he says something strange. He tells Red, if you ever get out of here, find a hayfield near Buxton. There's an old oak tree at the end of a stone wall. Under that tree is something I want you to have. Red thinks it's just Andy being poetic again. But something feels final. That night, Andy asks for a length of rope. The next morning, he doesn't come out of his cell. The guards panic. They call his name, no answer. They unlock the door, rush in. Andy's not there. The cell looks perfectly normal, books on the shelf, his neatly made bed, the poster of Raquel Welch on the wall, fluttering ever so slightly in the breeze from a crack. Norton, furious, throws a rock at it and the rock goes through the poster. Behind it? A hole, a tunnel. Not wide, just enough for one man to crawl through. For 19 years, Andy had been digging his way out, inch by inch, with nothing but that tiny rock hammer Red once thought was harmless. He'd break off little chunks of concrete at night, hide the debris in his pant legs, and scatter it in the yard during daily walks. No one ever noticed. It was a feat of patience, intelligence, and unshakable will. But that was only half of it. The night of his escape, during a thunderstorm, Andy slipped into the tunnel, crawled to a maintenance shaft, and broke open a sewage pipe with a stolen rock. Then he crawled through 500 yards of raw sewage, the length of 5 football fields, Red says, until he finally emerged into the night. Soaked, filthy, gasping for air. He raises his arms to the sky in the pouring rain, a moment of pure triumph. It's one of the most iconic shots in movie history. Andy Dufresne, the man who crawled through a river of filth and came out clean on the other side. Andy didn't just escape Shawshank. He pulled off a masterpiece. Remember that fake identity? Randall Stevens, the ghost person who handled all the shady financial transactions? The morning after his escape, Andy, now a free man, walks into a string of banks across the state. Clean-cut, calm, confident. And with the proper ID and signatures, he empties every account tied to the warden's schemes. In a single day, he takes over $370,000, every penny the prison stole through slave labor and fraud. Then, just as meticulously, Andy mails a thick envelope of ledgers, records, and evidence to the local newspaper. Everything the press needs to expose Shawshank's rotten core. Back at the prison, the fallout is swift and merciless. Police raid Shawshank. Hadley is arrested on the spot, stunned, broken. And Warden Norton? As the sirens close in, he retreats to his office, sits at his desk, opens the Bible Andy left behind, and finds the hollowed-out space where the rock hammer used to be. His world is crumbling. Rather than face prison, he puts a gun under his chin and pulls the trigger. The system that kept men like Andy trapped for decades is finally cracking, and it's Andy who lit the fuse. Red, still on the inside, watches it all unfold. And for the first time in years, he starts to believe. Believe that hope isn't a lie. That maybe, just maybe, there's life beyond the walls. Andy, the quiet man with the rock hammer, didn't just dig a tunnel. He dug a way out, for himself, and maybe for others, too. Years pass. And one day, after 40 years behind bars, Red is finally granted parole. He steps back into the outside world, just like Brooks did. The noise, the crowds, the empty apartment, the meaningless job bagging groceries. Everything feels foreign, too fast, too empty. And for a moment, it seems like Red might follow the same path as Brooks, lost, forgotten, unable to breathe outside those prison walls. But then, he remembers. The hayfield, the stone wall, the old oak tree in Buxton. Red travels there, unsure, cautious, but pulled by something bigger than fear. He finds the tree, the wall. And tucked beneath a rock, just like Andy said, is a small box. Inside? A letter, and cash, enough to start over. The letter is pure Andy, thoughtful, kind, full of hope. He invites Red to come find him in Zihuatanejo, a little town on the Pacific coast of Mexico. A place with no memory of prison. Just sun, sea, and freedom. And so, Red breaks parole. He hops a bus, riding through golden fields and open sky. His narration, Morgan Freeman's voice, carries us home. I hope I can make it across the border. I hope to see my friend and shake his hand. I hope the Pacific is as blue as it has been in my dreams. I hope. And then, we see it. A beach, endless blue water. Andy, sanding down a boat. He looks up. And there, walking toward him, is Red. No words, just a smile, a moment, a reunion that took decades to earn. And the screen fades to white. The Shawshank Redemption is more than just a story about breaking out of prison. It's a story about endurance, about what it takes to hold on to your identity, your mind, and your dreams when everything around you is trying to break you down. It's about dignity in the face of despair, about surviving not just physically, but emotionally, through friendship, purpose, and the quiet belief that life can still be meaningful. It's about loss, justice, and the slow burning, unstoppable force of hope. Andy didn't just escape a prison. He escaped a system designed to crush him, and in doing so, he gave Red, and all of us, a reason to believe that better days are possible, no matter how long they take. That's why this film is so deeply loved, and why, even decades later, it still resonates. If you enjoyed this breakdown, give the video a like, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into powerful stories. Thanks for watching.